Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sagebrush Happy Hour journal entry for September 2nd, uh, 2025. So it's been kind of a crazy weekend, but the main thing that's been happening is I'm supposed to be getting some new solar batteries, and so batteries for our home. And I'm waiting on 3 batteries to be delivered. And so they actually showed up on the FedEx tracking as being in Santa Fe on Friday, and said it would load it in the truck and for delivery. And so I was like, all right, Friday, good, but I've got a doctor's appointment. But I want to be there to when that delivery arrives, because they weigh 100 pounds apiece. So that's a 300-pound delivery, and I'm sure that the driver is going to be really grumpy about it. And so I debated whether to cancel the doctor's appointment or not, but then I kept watching the tracking, and it basically didn't say out for delivery on Friday. And so I was going, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's it's the Friday before a holiday weekend, because we had Labor Day coming up. And then Saturday morning, I was going to go over and help my neighbor install their new solar equipment, which was my old solar equipment. So I basically was doing their install for them using the equipment that I was familiar with. My old batteries, 2 of my older batteries, and my inverter and my charge controller, and then he got some surplus solar panels, and so I was going to rig that up. And so I had told him I'd be there at 9 in the morning, and then I looked on the FedEx tracking again, and it said loaded in the truck, out for delivery. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll put, and it said, between 9 and noon. So I called up Doug, and I said, I'm not going to be able to get over there till afternoon because I'm waiting for my batteries to arrive. So about 10 o'clock, I looked at the FedEx tracking again, and it said, unable to deliver, business is closed. And so kind of a cryptic message. And so there it went back to Santa Fe, and it said, we'll deliver on Tuesday, which would have been today. So I went over there and did that install for Doug when work done, and got their solar mostly up and running. I had a few issues that I needed to resolve later on, but then we got that. I got done around 4 o'clock on that, and then we went over to the Chili Line Depot for some live music and just to grab a burger. And so I get to the Chili Line, and of course Deb is cooking. The owner is cooking, and she gets a phone call that somebody had rented the teepee for that night, and they wanted to know how to get there. But we had all the teepees booked for Labor Day weekend and the yurt, and so we were completely full up. But so she hands the phone to me, and we juggle some things. And so we had one teepee that we had kind of decommissioned for a little bit because the door got ripped off, and it had been raining for a few days, and so it was just kind of we were going to rent that for the weekend. So anyway, I rushed off to the ranch, and we fabricated a door for the teepee and made up the beds in a hurry, and this is like at 6 o'clock at night. And then and the guests, who were not very happy about having to stay in the smaller teepee, then arrived later on, and that was a very long day for me, and I was like exhausted, and so spent Sunday just wanting to recover, but since I'd sent those 2 batteries over to Doug's, and I could only run 2 batteries in series with my new inverter, we were kind of in limp mode with the 2 batteries. And what had happened Saturday is we were cloudy most of the day, and so we only got up to like 50% power on the battery. So woke up Sunday morning to no power, and so then it was go out there in my pajamas and start up the generator. And it's the first time that I've used the generator with the new inverter. And so what happens is, since that is a 240 volt inverter, is that the 120 volt generator would only power up half the circuits in my house. So and there's electrical reason for that. It's called where the split phase, and one of the legs was energized and the other was not. And so basically we could only run half the circuits in our house, and while we were charging the batteries up to get them to the point where they would that the solar would take over. And so again, that was kind of like a shot out of a cannon kind of day, and ended up getting the batteries back charged up to at least 70-80%, and then it was I was like, okay, well, we still got to make it through Monday, with only 2 batteries and kind of a limp mode. I mean, we're just have to cut back our energy use a little bit. And so then, so Monday came around, and I went over again to Doug's to finish up some things. So basically wire his panel for 240 volts and wire in a couple remaining panels. So he had 8 panels. We had 6 of them wired up, and I needed some connectors. And so I brought those connectors over, and then we wired his panel up for 240, and we wired up all 8 solar panels. And he was really happy that we were getting the 1200 watts off the solar panels, and the batteries were fully charged. And for their arrangements, 2 batteries would definitely be sufficient, as they live in an RV. And then basically so that was basically, I went over to the chili line to take care of some business things, and then I get a call from Doug again. He said, we just got hit by a dust devil, and it blew over the 2 panels and ripped all the cables loose. And so I had him turn off the breakers to the panels, and then so he wasn't getting any solar at that point. And I went back over to their house and basically reverted back to 6 panels. So he's still operating on 6 panels, and so we've got 2 panels that are unoperable until I get some new connectors, MC4 connectors, from Amazon. So the adventure continues into today. And so today, first thing, I was, anticipating that the batteries would arrive. And so I was watching the FedEx tracking like a hawk. And they loaded the truck at 2 a.m. and it was out for delivery. And the driver's name was Cherokee. And they were going to deliver between 9:30 and noon. And then about 10 o'clock, we get another update, and it said there's an update. Didn't say anything beyond that they were going to deliver the next business day. So another day wasted waiting on the batteries. But what probably happened is that the bridge over the Rio Grande River, the famous Taos Bridge, or the Gorge Bridge, was closed this morning because they had a jumper. And so when they have a jumper, that means they have to do a body recovery. And it generally takes like 4 hours for them to do that. And so it closes down the main egress and ingress to Taos. And people have to go do a 40-mile detour. And so I'm presuming that's what happened, is the FedEx truck got caught on the other side of the gorge and when the bridge was closed. And so I am hopeful that tomorrow morning we'll see it loaded onto the truck and actually see it delivered, and so that we can move on with a new battery installation and less power worries. That's what's happening on the Mesa today. Cheers, everybody.